Games. They are loved by all in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's jumping on Dead by Daylight with your friends, playing basketball for your school, or playing fetch with a stick. Because yes, I did mean it when I said games are loved by all, as outlined by Hausinger in his famous book Homo Ludens. Your regular casual players probably never find themselves pondering on what makes this game a game. However, there have been many discussions and or opinions on the matter throughout time, dating back to times far before the games that we might think of today. So how is it possible to categorize everything from GTA 5 to Monopoly to football under one universal term to which we call a game? Well, in this video, I'll be outlining the many ideas that have arisen on this topic, particularly paying attention to the perspective of Hausinger in his fundamental work on defining the term play. These ideas will also be correlated to the many forms of game that we experience in our society. If you were to type into Google "defining games", the response appears as "a system in which players engage in an artificial conflict defined by rules that result in a quantifiable outcome." Now, if we take this definition and apply it to video games that we know and love today, this can make very literal sense. For example, let's use Fortnite. Players engaging in an artificial conflict? Check. Defined by rules? Check. Quantifiable outcome? Check. So with this example, Google seems pretty perfect, right? Well, what happens if we switch to Minecraft? Artificial conflict? I suppose you can fight mobs or use a survival mechanic as a form of conflict. Defined by rules? Well, seeing as it's a sandbox game in which the players can alter their experience to their best pleasing, this doesn't seem to apply directly. Quantifiable ending? I hate to repeat myself here, but the pure nature of sandbox games seems to break this definition. Perhaps Google isn't so perfect after all. Who would have thought? This is where Hausinger comes in with his perspective on the overarching idea of play. Hausinger highlights in his book that ever since the idea of play has been prominent in society, scientists have tried to reduce it down and analyze it quantitatively. However, he believes that by doing such a thing, we are ignoring the core meaning of play, which is in the aesthetic and qualitative nature. He believes that play has its foundations in the fun element and not by that of quantitative outcomes. But there are many ideas that can come from this as to why we play games. Minecraft doesn't have to have a final outcome for there to be a sense of playing a game, as millions of people, including myself, enjoy the free and explorative nature of the game. Furthermore, he identifies the fact that games are a subset of play, meaning that the idea of play is primary focal point in which all games must adhere to. Games provide a space for the play to happen. Now let's look at a magical circle in correlation to defining play. Hausinger created this concept as a way to describe the so-called escape from reality feeling we experience whether you're on a PC or on the tennis court. This magical circle creates a second reality in which the players voluntarily choose to adhere to the rules of said reality, meaning that if the rules are broken, you'll be taken out. This correlates directly back to the idea of games, especially online, because if you are seen cheating, then you will be removed and you have to face the real world once more. However, despite the circle being separate from the real world, it still has lasting effects. When one loses a game of FIFA, there is an effect on the player which can be taken back to the real world. This shows that games are inherently interconnected to that which makes up both the real world and the secure escape that we can submerge ourselves into. All of this can make defining games quite a tricky challenge, seeing as there is an element of metaphorical distance between the player and the real world, and yet the lasting effects of the game can roll over into the real world. This idea leads on to Hausinger's idea that play is a primary and fundamental social construction that predates civilization. It is something that has helped shape society and is why it can be found in all avenues. According to Hausinger, all other abstractions can be denied, but play cannot, leading to the idea that games are a fundamental segment of society that cannot be denied, as the core of the games, being play, predates that of other social constructions. All of these ideas demonstrate that games have existed in the past, present, and future, with the core interconnecting piece holding them all together under one umbrella, being play, which grants us the ability to be able to define games without needing to have a quantitative outcome. If you play Red Dead and it takes you into another reality in which you voluntarily choose to adhere to a subset of rules whilst experiencing the qualitative, aesthetic nature of your surroundings. You are playing a game.